Okay. Well, long time no see, viewers slash listeners. You have reached lip service, and for those of you who have forgotten, because we ain't done crapping in such a long time, lip service is the show about comics. Okay, and I know some of y'all gonna say big whoop-de-doo. Well, what makes us different is the fact that we talk about the independents. We're not talking about the rodents. We're not talking about dark horse, white horse, or any kind of crazy horse. I'm talking about the up and comers, the people who are just like me, my wife right here, doing the things that we love to do, and hopefully, if everything works out right, we get paid. Now, for those of you who are saying, well, where the hell have you been? Well, one thing, this little crazy thing called life gets in the way half the time. The other part of it is, for those of you who are tech savvy, more power to you, because I spent the last couple of months straightening out our PC yet again, thanks to a Windows 10 update and impatience. So for those of you who are doing the free upgrade, I'm telling you, take your time. Otherwise, you'll have to put up with, I had to put up with, having to reinstall, rebuild all over again. And believe me, that was not fun, especially when you lose about a good 3 or 4 episodes. Luckily, I never deleted them off YouTube. So on the one hand, I'm spared. And always, people, make certain that your hard drive works. Okay, but enough about my ills and wills. So tonight we're taping live once again. So if we crash and burn, you get to see it all come down, and all come down to, fro, and sideways. And tonight our guest is Brandon Is it Rhiness or Rhiness?
Rhiness.
Rhiness. Okay. I thought so. I thought the E would make a long I, but I just want to take certain of higher. Oh, good grief.
Higher universe.
Yeah, I wanted to say universe, but I'm like, do I really want to go there and make a more of a fool out of myself? But yeah. Okay, Brandon, welcome to Lip Service.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so what got you started in this crazy industry in the first place?
Well, kind of depends how far back you want to go. You want to mean like recently, or you're talking about like how I first got into it when I was a child?
Yes, let's go back to the primordial ooze.
Well, basically, back when I was in elementary school, I don't know if people remember the Marvel trading cards that came out.
Okay.
This is kind of like early 90s. I was in science class, and I remember sitting there, and I look over, and the kids next to me, they're kind of looking at something underneath their desk, like trying to hide it from the teacher.
Oh yeah.
I was like, hey, what do you guys have there? So they're like, oh, these like Marvel cards, and like at the time, like I knew who Spider-Man was, like I knew kind of like all the big superheroes, but I just I wasn't a comic book kid. So they started showing me these cards. Next thing you know, like I went and started buying my own little packs, with my paper route money. Next thing you know, I was just like super big into comic books, and I'd spend all my money buying comics and that type of thing. And I'd always been like a writer too. And kind of the big moment was in grade 4. I wrote a story. I wrote this kind of short story based on a dream I had one night about getting kidnapped and then having to escape these kidnappers. So I wrote this, like 4 or 5 page short story. And my English teacher let me read it in front of the class, and all the kids loved it. They were all applauding me and everything, and they wanted me to like write a part 2. And so that kind of just gave me a little boost of confidence that, hey, people like what I write. And then kind of over the years, I kept writing and doing stuff. And then it wasn't until the last like 5 years or so, like 4 years, I guess, that we started making comics for real. Like I'd done some other short films, and me and some friends made like a feature length action movie, like a real low budget one back in 2007. But actually making the comics just came about 4 years ago when Adam Storchuk, my friend and co-creator, we decided it's like, what, we have all these ideas. I even have scripts, and we have a bunch of drawings. Like, let's just do this for real and start making comic books. And I had no idea how to do it. I kind of knew how comics are made, but to actually produce one of your own was difficult. So basically we just dove in, figured it out, hired artists, and it was such a long process. It took us like a year to finish our first one.
Right.
And then once we did that, it's like, hey, like we made a comic. Let's do it again. So we started adding more titles, adding more artists. We started selling them, and they were kind of popular. And we just kind of kept building it up until this point.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and speaking of the part of jumping straight in, because that's how we started here with Kiss Me Comics, you know, and there seems to be that common parallel that for the majority of the independents, they have the idea, but they just don't know all the ins and outs, and they just simply just say, oh well, and like the lead lemming, just jump off the cliff. Now, with that, and with that, in producing your first comics, not knowing how the process goes, you said it was difficult, but did that also hurt the quality of your work?
I don't. It kind of did. Like our very first comic we did, like the original Stargirl. There's only 100 copies of it that exist. Like I don't think it's even around digitally anymore. We basically redid it, and it was just like partly like my writing for comic books wasn't quite up to speed, and then there was just all these problems that like it just wasn't like so much artwork problems, but kind of, you know, it just wasn't up to what it could have been. Basically, we just had to make one just so we could make one complete comic. But then after we did, it's like, okay, we got to do the same thing but better. So it was Brittany Bromley who did the artwork for the original Stargirl. She did like the line art and the coloring and everything, even the lettering. But it was too much work for her, so we had just have her do coloring, and we basically redid the entire issue, basically almost panel for panel. I improved on a lot of things, and we hired a new penciler, a guy from Poland named P.D. Daedalus, and he redid the art, and we basically redid the whole comic, and just because we learned so much. So yeah, like starting off, it was a lot harder, and if you look at even like the kind of the first 2 issues of our series Misfits, you can tell they're not as good a quality as our newer stuff. Like I hadn't quite learned the panel-to-panel storytelling. There's a lot of 15-panel pages because I couldn't tell things in a shorter time frame. I had to show all these panels, and it just kind of, it's still a good story. People still like it, but I've learned so much. Like nowadays, I can just kind of write the scripts a lot faster, and I kind of just know what's going to work on the page and what won't. Right.
Now, and speaking of that, you know, the other thing I wanted to ask is the going through the process of laying out a book, because I was having the same kind of issues trying to figure out, okay, what, you know, you got your script, and you saying, okay, I got the script now you got to try to put those words into pictures, and you know, how hard is the editing process for you as an independent trying to do that, especially when it's just you and not having a whole lot of people behind you to make that happen?
Well, basically, I guess, like, you basically just have to have faith in yourself, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like, it's, I don't struggle with it that much. Like I remember the first ones I did, like, I didn't even write it in, like, comic book script form, because I kind of grew up writing screenplays. It's still, like, my favorite way to write is screenplay format.
Right.
So I used to write it like that, because in my head, I would see it as, like, a movie. So I'd write it as a screenplay, and then I would just kind of take it a chunk at a time and break it down into panels. But then after a few times, I kind of started doing it just straight up as a comic book script, whereas now I can see the story in pictures, and I can break it down in pictures. And then so I have like the full script, panel to panel with dialogue and everything. I send that to the artist. Once I get the artwork back, before I send it to the letter, I will go over and edit it again, just because sometimes, you know, there's too many word balloons for a panel, or sometimes like something what I was saying in dialogue wouldn't work with the panel anymore, so I have to alter it a bit. Or sometimes a character is doing something, there's enough room that, hey, I should give him a line there, you know, like he's saying something. So I'll kind of do that. And then luckily I have the Chris Johnson, who does a lot of my lettering. He's very good at like editing type stuff too, so he's another set of eyeballs I have on it that he can kind of go through and catch mistakes and, you know, make little minor changes if need be. But yeah, basically we don't have an editor. It's like we basically have a skeleton crew of people, and I take the blame for it if it, you know, if it doesn't work or anything, it's it's my fault. I'm the storyteller. But
Right.
People kind of expect that with indie comics. It's going to be just like slightly rougher than reading Avengers or something like that. But I've never had any big mistakes, like editing wise. Like I think I'm happy with the way things are going.
Okay, sweet. Now, the other question I have is, is speaking of the editing, especially when you don't have a crew. How, actually, let me shift gears here. With you actually now having a crew, how hard was it to find people that will help in this endeavor? Because let's face it, in these days and times, if you ain't if you as the saying goes, money talks, and what walks.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it was hard at first. Like we pay all our artists. Like I know there's a lot of indie guys that don't, or they try not to, and like I just don't think that's fair. Like artists are talented. Like we pay absolutely everyone. We wouldn't even let someone work for free because people deserve it. So it was hard at first because like we were unknown and we didn't really know anyone.
Uh-huh.
So we would hire an artist, and even the guy that did the artwork for the first Misfits, he was a guy named Luca from Italy, and he's like a stellar artist. But it was just like a language barrier thing, and then he was real busy, and it ended up taking way longer, and it was extremely frustrating to get that one issue done. So by the time number 2 came along, we found a different artist, Nick O'Gorman, and he's like way better. So we kind of worked with him for a long time. We had a couple people that we would hire, and they would get halfway through a book, either like penciling or coloring it or whatever, and it just, they would start to like not turn in their work. They'd always be late, or their work would just like decline. There'd be some reason. There's a couple people we had to actually fire them halfway through a book and basically restart over with someone else, and it was expensive, but we had to do it. But it got to the point now where we have a solid crew because everyone working with us has worked with us before,
right?
And so it's like people were like comfortable with the people we work with, and they work out great. And we're kind of established enough now that it's almost like we could have our pick of people. Like we have so many people.
You could pick
wanting to draw for us,
right?
That we can kind of take people that we could see their body of work and know, like, okay, this guy can get comics done, right? We don't have to pick someone that claims they can draw, but they've never done a comic before. So we're a little bit more advanced. So like, it's never been difficult since like last couple of years. It's never been difficult for us to work with people because we do have a solid team.
Okay, straight. Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. And by the way, with those of you who are actually out there watching, if you go to the event page, we actually do have Q&A. So if you have questions for either myself or for Brandon, go right ahead. Also, you can find us and just in case you don't feel like doing it, you can also reach out to us on Twitter, okay, with the handle @KissMeComics. That's all one word. So moving forward here, now when you drop me the email, I've noticed you guys got a whole bunch of titles. So what is your favorite out of that bunch?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I have this. I kind of like them all. If I had to pick, I'd probably say Ghoul Squad, just because it's kind of the funnest and most ridiculous. It's kind of like more cartoon style. It's like we have a lot more fun with it, and there's some great characters in there. So yeah, I'd have to pick that one.
And so, what's Ghoul Squad all about?
Basically, it's kind of a team of monsters that they set up shop in Transylvania, and they fight. They're like kind of supernatural, paranormal, crime fighters type thing. The main character is Barney the Vampire. And actually, in real life, there was back in the 1830s or kind of mid 1800s, there was a book character named Barney the Vampire. It predates Dracula, so we kind of took that name. And the whole thing is that even though Barney predates Dracula, Dracula's a more popular vampire. So Barney's just jealous that Dracula's more famous than he is, and so he hires like a guy named Grinderstein, who's like a big green dude. He's like kind of like a Frankenstein monster type, but he's made half of body parts and half of metal mechanical parts. And there's a man bat kind of guy named Hellbat, and then there's a witch named Wicca, and then there's a little hunchback dude named Ratfink. And so they kind of set up shop in this castle, and Barney's kind of a big loudmouth, the boss, and none of the other team like him. They're trying to sneak around behind his back. But in the first couple issues, they fight a werewolf, and then in number 3, they fight a manticore. So they're always fighting some sort of ghost or some sort of paranormal creature. But it's done as comedy, so it's we actually get that's probably our most popular title. Like, a lot of people just like it because of just the comedy style of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Now, the other question and this is something that I want to find kind of interesting here. How quickly, especially with the especially in these days and times with you're dealing with an international system here. How quickly can you turn around and get a book out?
It varies. It depends on who we're working with, what their schedule it is, and basically depends on how much money we have. If kind of money gets tight, we have to slow things down a bit, and we'll only do 1 or 2 pages every week or every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then once we have more money coming in, it's okay, we can speed it up a bit. And there's times too where now we're working on so many books at once that it seems like nothing's coming out, but we have 5 or 6 books that are on the verge of being done. So when they are done, we'll have a whole bunch at once. Okay. So sometimes it'll be a few months for it to come out, and sometimes it'll be a year. It depends on a lot of things, and now that we're kind of branching off into movies, that's kind of eating up a lot of our budget. So we're gonna have to slow things down a bit, but we do have a bunch of stuff coming out soon. Ideally, if in a perfect world, we would have a set schedule where every 2 months we would have one done, but it just depends on a lot of factors. So we don't keep a regular schedule. It's just it's basically whenever it comes out, it comes out.
Okay. Now, and now the other question I have for you is that are you guys traditional print, or are you now with the newfangled way of web comics?
We do both. We love print comics, and honestly, we make more money through the print comics. We sell more of them than we do digital. But we are kind of up here in Canada. We're kind of far away from everything, and it's just hard to get the Comic-Cons down in the States and get our stuff down there. So it just makes sense if we want to have our product reach a worldwide audience, we have to have it digital. So it's good. We have both those options. If you want, you could buy a print copy and we can mail it to you, and we sell a lot of print copies locally around our area here. But Adam and I are both fans of print comics. I don't really read digital comics. I know a lot of people do, so we want to have that option available to them. Right. But we do. I know some people that they don't want to, because of the expense, they don't want to do print. But we're willing to just have that added expense because it feels so cool to have a printed comic of your own in your hands.
It does. Yes, it does. And it's a good thing you mentioned Canada, because that's where we first launched. Oh yeah, 16, almost 17 years ago. Long story short, we came back from Niagara Falls, and we were working on our books at that time, and we came back, and my wife just said, well, I wonder if there's any kind of conventions up in Canada. So we fired up the old DSL. Took forever, but I started sniffing, and we found the Fan Expo in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we kept looking, and we was like, ooh, we found it. It's when is it? August. We're like 6 weeks. And all we kept on saying was, it's doable. It's doable. And we went up there with 20 copies, a beat up box, but we came back practically sold out. Nice. And our first store, which is Silver Snail. And to all of our friends up there, we will try to get up there very soon. We miss you guys. Miss you much. So it's funny that you say that you prefer the print, because a lot of the people that we've interviewed have said the direct opposite. And to and for them, most of them make their money off of off the web sales. But I also look at it the fact that is that you're in Canada, and up in Canada, the for us, I've seen that the readers up there are more traditional than anywhere else. So
yeah, that could very well be. Yeah, maybe just a Canadian thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, yeah, it's kind of my personal taste too, right? I'd rather just read a print comic than a digital comic. Right. It could just be maybe younger people are more into the digital. Like, I'm not kind of sure what it is. I can only speak for my own
right,
my own experience, which is just like, yeah, I'm kind of a print person.
Yeah. Now you also made mention that that you got several titles and you're branching out into film. So how are you able to budget all that out? Do you kind of play devil's advocate for that?
Budgets. Basically, we just kind of had to slow down a little bit on the comics and just kind of divert some of that money into the films. Mm-hmm. But basically, like we shot this past summer a web series called Mental Case. We shot 2 episodes of that. I wrote it, mm-hmm. and I met an actor in Edmonton here named Afton Rents, and she's an actor and professional fight choreographer. Uh-huh. So she wanted to be in like a series where she got to like fight a lot. So I wrote the series Mental Case, and me and Afton co-produced it together. And we kind of funded it between the two of us. It was a lot of money for us, but it was still very low budget. Mm-hmm. And now we're doing a new movie called I'm in Love with a Dead Girl, and it's a short film, like a short kind of dark comedy horror type thing. Uh-huh. And for that, it's basically like the budget's it's going to be too big that we just can't fund it ourselves. So that's why we're doing an Indiegogo campaign at the moment, trying to raise the money necessary to get that made. And that's probably the thing is too, like I don't want to take too much time away from the comics. I want to keep that going. So the movie thing is going to be a whole new ball game because we got to start coming up with regular funding, and it's going to be a learning process, and we're not even really sure how we're going to do it yet. But we've dove in again, and we'll figure it out. And we're just starting with this first one, right? We're shooting at the end of November. We'll just do this one, and then once it's done, we'll worry about how we're going to get the next one made.
Okay. Now is the one thing I really have to ask because it sounds like you have people have embraced you quite readily. What does it take, especially when it's and I gotta ask because for us the one thing it's been drilled in our heads is consistency of production. What have you done for me lately? So what trick or is it a pill or something to where you maintain that fan base without people saying, what the hell are you doing? Where are you, boy?
You want to know how we maintain our fan base?
Yeah, because like I said, it's a strange thing here in the States. Because they're so drilled into every 30 days or a graphic novel or something like that. So yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, it is hard because we do have a lot of people asking like, when's the new Ghoul Squad coming out? And sometimes they'll be like, hey, it should be for Christmas, and then it's like, oh man, it's not going to be till March. Like, damn, So we kind of keep in touch. We get regular updates on our Facebook page. We'll post some artwork and stuff. And a lot of our people, they're not like just fans of one comic. They kind of like a few of our things.
Okay.
So maybe Ghoul Squad's going to be another 6 months, but we have like some other stuff coming up before then. And we keep in touch with people, and once in a while I'll just like mail out a free comic randomly to someone, just things like that to kind of keep people interested. And usually they'll end up taking a picture of it and posting it on Facebook, so people kind of hear our name mentioned. Right. Honesty, like I know Marvel and DC, big companies, they're good at just like every month like doing that. We just can't do that. I've never really had any complaints about it. Like people ask about it, but it's always very friendly. It's and in all honesty, like time goes by quickly. 6 months can go by like super fast, and people don't even notice. It's just, before they even realize it, it's like, oh, there's a new Ghoul Squad here. And they don't realize, well, it's been like 9 months since the last one. So it's never really been a big problem. I would like to step up production and everything, but it's just being an indie guy, it's just a lot of work. But I don't think it's been a big issue for it. I don't really worry about it too much.
Okay. Now, okay. So now, that we got that part out. You're using it. You're going through an Indiegogo campaign to start the funding for a film. So, how? Okay. Well, the first thing is, where can people find that your campaign, so that way if they want to donate, they can. And then speaking of donations, people, if you like what we're doing here on Lip Service, or you have seen our past episodes and you want to support us, you can always go to the page there, to our actual YouTube page, and we do have fan funding. So even if it's just $1, it helps. Because saying goes, we gotta have lights. HD cameras don't come cheap, and they neither do blue snowballs. And I guarantee you, everything will go to improving the quality of the show. So so from here, how have you been able to market the new endeavor?
Basically, I'm just kind of pushing it as much as I can, telling anyone who listen. If you just go to Indiegogo and search for "I'm in love with a dead girl."
Okay.
You can find it there, or if you just go to our website, thehigheruniverse.com. It's kind of on the main page there. You can just click right there, and it'll take you to the Indiegogo page. Because I've just been pushing it, just contacting, hitting people up for money, and it's kind of awkward at first, but it's like, we're doing something good. People seem happy to support us. I started contacting like newspapers and like television news here in Edmonton, and I've gotten kind of in some newspaper stuff, and I might be doing a big CBC news thing next week, hopefully. And just contacting people with blogs, people with podcasts, and just kind of letting them know what we do, and it's not like we're just kind of coming out of the blue. We've never done anything before. We have something to show, like, hey, we've made all these comics on our own, and now we're doing this kind of new thing. So it's a kind of a new story on its own. It's like, because if people never heard of us, it's like really like two guys in an apartment can like create this entire thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool when people hear about that. It's like, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Oh yeah.
So it hasn't been too hard. I've been surprised at the outpouring of support, even like in my hometown of Wetaskiwin, Alberta. It's like half hour south of the city here. I did an interview in the paper with them. They did a full page story on me like 2 weeks ago or last week or something.
Sweet. And
also, everyone's emailing me, and one of my friends from Wetaskiwin is now a teacher at that same elementary school I was telling you about where I first got into comics.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, like the people there were talking about you and how like cool the comic book stuff was, and they were kind of all surprised that you used to go to this school. And I was like, really? I've never pushed the comics that much. I used to only push it to comic book fans because they were like the target audience. Right. But as soon as other people find out about it, everyone's just kind of generous and just kind of happy about, wow, like what you're doing is so cool. So it kind of feels good that people just like what I do.
You're a rock star. So but that's a good thing. And I would have to say that in these days and times, I believe, to be perfectly honest with you, that we're in an era where where there used to be a point in time where being an independent, there were issues. You weren't good enough. You were just starting out, blah, blah, blah. But thanks to social media, the internet, YouTube, don't ever go full pay ever again, YouTube. So help me, I will create something else to where you wouldn't to put you out of business. But as long as you're making money, great. But it seems like this is the era for independence now. And do you feel that the fact that now all of a sudden corporate America has all of a sudden said, ooh, we can tap into, well, first of all, they realized that the independents are taking money out of their pocket, and half the time the big money bucks, hot shots that they're paying buku bucks aren't getting the job done. So do you feel that now that corporate America is putting their feelers and their suckers of life out of things into into the independent scene, that they will eventually suck it up or destroy it?
Ooh, it's a hard question. Yeah, I don't really know that much about it. I try not to like follow that kind of thing. I think it's great that like I don't think anyone's ever gonna basically beat Marvel or DC. You know, they're probably gonna always be the biggest.
Right.
But the opportunity for indie people just to get their work out there is something that wasn't around like 20 years ago.
Right.
And again, I think it'll work out because there's still a lot of indie people that would dream of working for Marvel or DC and would take those jobs if they could. So I think Marvel and DC can kind of keep their eye on the indie scene and kind of just see people's talents. And it's a way to get known too. Like it used to be, you could sit at home and draw your pages, but it was hard to get noticed. Whereas now you could just publish a comic and you can publish your own comic up into the point where you get noticed by one of the big companies. So I don't think it's I think kind of the way it works is perfectly. You have your big companies and they'll always be big, but you have your indie people and they'll always be indie. And people can go from one to the other, but just having those options there, like I don't think people kind of want to live in a world where there was no Marvel and DC, but you don't want to live in a world where there's only Marvel and DC. You kind of want the indie side too.
You gotta have it. You got to have it. And I totally agree with you because I used to be a big time Marvel fan, and I actually bought into the brainwashing propaganda that they and they still that they have and continue to be into the audience for the last 60 years. To the point where they have dried up the market. And now that they dried it up so bad, believe with their own stuff. Now all of a sudden they're in far as I'm concerned invading Canada because they dried up everything else worldwide. And I hope to God you guys up there resist the urge. Resist it at all costs.
We'll do our best.
Please. That is the last bastion for us to even try to make to even get our stuff out there. But now the other thing is I got to ask you is, now that you're into the film production, what other areas are you contemplating down the road?
I'm working on a book right now, it's kind of a children's book, kind of like a joke children's book. I'm doing that just because it kind of came to me. I always wanted to try something new. And I even wrote, I'm not really a musician, but I wrote some song lyrics the other day, and then actually I hired Afton Rentz, the star of Mental Case and Dead Girl, because she can sing. I just hired her to go into a recording studio and just record the song, and I want to get a little bit of animation thing done to it. So I kind of just want to, just try, new simple things like that, but I don't want to overextend myself. Like doing comics is hard enough. Doing comics and short films is really hard. So there's no plans right now to expand it even further. We just want to keep making comics, keep making short films. And once the film thing is going, we can do successful short films. We're going to try doing like a feature length, hour and a half, 2 hour long movie. And then we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It sounds like you probably need an investor. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Out that
would be awesome.
Yeah, to you angel investors out there that always seem to be lurking out there in cyberspace. That here we are, right here. Hello, go for it. Now the other question I wanted to ask you is exactly how many titles are you running?
We have 8, I believe. Misfits, Stargirl, Ghoul Squad, Skull, Boy with a Balloon for a Head, Alley Cats are the ones we have out, and then we have Elvis the Zombie, who's a character from Misfits. He's getting his own book coming out right away. We're just kind of putting finishing touches on that, and then Chainsaw Reindeer will be coming out next year as well.
Chainsaw Rain. Oh, I can just imagine that one. Now now the other question that just occurred to me is, with you doing all this, is there different artists for each book, or is it kind of like where you just kind of, or do you have just like a core group of artists and and you simply just divvy out who does what, where, and why?
It's there's a bit of a crossover because a lot of the artists are multi-talented. So, for example, like Nick kind of he penciled and inked some issues of Misfits, and now he's coloring Chainsaw Reindeer and Rule Squad, and he's also lettering some books too. And we have some people that'll be kind of like drawing one, coloring the other, or they'll be doing all like pencil, inks, and colors. So we kind of, once we have a core group of people, and instead of hiring someone new and having to work with them, it's like, well, we kind of just stick with our kind of solid base of artists.
Okay, gotcha. And once again, and in these days and times, this shows you the power of the internet.
And like, we don't even live in the same country. We have a
exactly.
guy in Canada, a guy in the States, a guy in Europe, and it's no problem. We kind of just exchange work. So we talk on Facebook, and it's the fact that we live on different continents doesn't really matter to us.
Yeah, and see, and to me, that is such a beautiful thing. I wish we could get to that point where we could have people all over the world and not only read the work, but to participate in it. That to me, that in these days and times is is what's going to keep the independent thing going, because that because it's that old hair commercial. One person tells another person, and so on and so forth. Albeit in different countries or different continents or anything like that. So, from here, Brandon, where with all this going, all at the same time, where do you see do you see a finish line at the end of maybe 3 to 5 years?
Not really. I imagine I'm gonna just do this till the day I die. Basically, I don't see any sort of end. Like, I just want to keep making more comics, keep making more movies, and just keep making them better and more of them. I wouldn't mind getting to the point where I have kind of producers that work under me, so I could just write a ton of movies and have other people make them instead of having to work on every single one. And I kind of want to just be able to write a lot of comics and have someone that does what I do now, kind of someone that could just take care of the publishing side. Like, I could just write the scripts and they could deal with the artists and actually get them produced. So I do have kind of like long-term goals like that, but there's no finish line. Like, I love what I do. I want to just keep doing it forever. And even, if I was extremely successful, I would still like writing. I would still want to write my own movies, write my own comics. I could hire other writers too, but I just want to keep doing it. Like, I absolutely love it. I don't imagine retiring, or I don't imagine any scenario where I would not be doing it.
Oh, gotcha. And that's the way I look at it too. It should be where you can just say, hey, this is my 9 to 5, and there lies the whole crux of the situation. Yeah. So aside from the higheruniverse.com and your where else can folks find you?
I'm on Twitter, just at Brandon Rhiness. That's probably the best place to get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook too, but like, I don't want to have like a million friends on Facebook. I try to keep that more for closer friends and people like that. So yeah, Twitter, you can get a hold of me. You can just send me an email to Rhiness at thehigheruniverse.com. If you just go to our website, my email's on there if you want to just contact me from there. Yeah, I like hearing from people. If you want to show me some of your work, like, we're not really hiring people at the moment. But if you want to show me your work or just say hi, or if you have questions or anything like that, I'd love to hear from people.
Okay. Yeah. And what's your Twitter handle?
It's at Brandon Rhiness.
Okay. Cool. I will make certain that I will hook into that and follow you as well. So. Perfect. Oh yeah, yeah. Because it's a small community, and I believe that in this community everybody should be helping each other.
Oh yeah.
You know, because there is more. There's a couple billion or trillion people floating around on this planet. You know, provided we don't blow ourselves the kingdom come, that could partake in this. So, you know, for somebody to have an ego or worry about, you know, like worrying about somebody taking away something away from you, it shouldn't even, that should be the furthest thing from anybody's, from any comic creator's mind. You know, because we're all, this even down to Marvel and DC. All they are is filling a niche. You know, it's just that niche is bigger than that is bigger than others. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and it should be that easy, folks. So we have been talking with Brandon Rhiness.
Yeah.
Of Higher Universe Comics. And if you guys and gals out there watching should always go out there wherever you are, and you see somebody like Brandon, you see somebody like us, go out there and take a try. All you got, I mean, I can understand if somebody was asking for $20 for a book. And believe me, the funny thing about it is, if you can sit there and pay almost $5 or $6 for something of Marvel, you can buy 2 or 3 of it independent and get more bang for your dollar, or a loony or toonie. for those of you, oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know the loony and the toonie quite well. Oh yes, and so folks, if you have any questions, feel free to post them on our Twitter handle at Kiss Me Comics, or if you got questions for Brandon, you can also hit him up on at Brandon Rhiness on Twitter, or you can post in the comments on right there on YouTube. We will follow up. Or if it's something specifically for Brandon and you can't remember, we will follow up. And if, once again, viewers and listeners, if you like what we're doing, subscribe. I know. Yeah, some of you gonna say, some of you, I can hear you, some of you now, you ain't done cribbing. Why do you think I'm doing this now? I'm getting back on the horse. And after almost, what now, 4 years of doing lip service in one form or another, I'm not going anywhere. So get used to being the dust bunny. And so, one final question, Brandon, before we depart here. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who is in the exact same position as you way back when?
Basically, just kind of like I said, you just have to jump in and do it. I have a lot of people that ask me that, like, how do I get started? And it's like, well, that's the answer. You have to get started. Like, you can't figure out the whole process at once. You've never made a comic and you're not sure what you're going to do. You kind of have an end goal in mind, but you're not going to know the whole thing. Like, just hire an artist and just do 1 page at a time. Like, we would, when we first started, we would work our day jobs, and every paycheck we would have a little bit of money set aside to pay an artist. They would just do 1 page every 2 weeks for that paycheck. So it was never a big burden on us. We just pay them every second Friday when we got paid. We pay an artist to do the pages. At the end of the year, it's like, hey, we have an entire comic book done.
Yeah.
So then we printed that, and we started selling those, and let's do another one. And then it's like, you know what, I think we can do 2, and I think we can do 3. And we kind of kept going like that. But that's what it takes, is just to jump in and do it. Because I know a lot of people that are, still talking about this idea for a comic they have, and it's been 3-5 years that it's like, you're still just talking about it. Like, sooner or later, you just have to start doing it. Is just jump in and figure it out. Maybe it won't work, maybe it will, but you have to just start working on it, work at it with a passion, and just get it finished, and then keep doing it and promote it and just work hard at it. You can't just kind of have an idea and, well, I want to make comics, but I don't really work that much at it. Like, you got to just work at it hard and push it.
Gotcha. And there you have it, people. If you want to get into this, just do it. That's what Brandon did. That's what we did. We just never said, we didn't know. Just like Brandon, we didn't know nothing from nothing. We just had an idea. We said we got the talent, we got the resources. Well, not so much the resources, but well, there's a will, there's a way. And so this will conclude this little bit of lip service. So once again, if you like what you see, if you don't like what you see, let us know, okay? And support independence. Brandon has the Indiegogo campaign for his upcoming film production. In the description, we will have the link if you want to subscribe, if you want to support and show your love for the independent endeavor. And also, if you like our independent endeavor, there will be, as always, there will be a little something right there for you to donate, and we will give out something. If it's a free book, a free poster, something, to show our appreciation of you supporting independence. Okay, and if you, once again, tell your friends, like and subscribe to what we're doing. The more people subscribe, the more incentive, the more of an incentive we have to produce this stuff to help other independents get the word out about what they're doing. Because let's face it, Marvel and DC own media, the media, period, in one form or another. Us here, we're just doing we're paycheck to paycheck. Just like Brandon said, bit by bit. So like and subscribe, jump in, jump on. And we'll be right back with some final thoughts and maybe a rant or two, a book review. I don't know. But we'll be right back, and you guys don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.